My name is Ethan, I'm 32, and I've built a reputation. People see me as the kind of man you don't cross. It's not just my appearance, though my 6'3" frame, broad shoulders, and the collection of scars I've earned don't exactly invite conversation. It's the life I've lived, a life filled with things that would make most men tremble. Fear is a language people understand when they look at me, and I've learned to use that silence. It was easier to keep everyone at a distance. But that entire world tilted on its axis the moment I saw her. It was just another Tuesday in the city, a symphony of honking cars and the chatter of crowded streets. Then, through the chaos, my eyes found her and the air left my lungs. She stood by a small flower shop, her fingers gently tracing the edge of a rose petal. She wasn't just beautiful, that word is too simple. She was stunning, a kind of beauty that commanded your attention, that silenced the noise of the world around her. Her name, I learned by overhearing a nearby conversation, was Katrina. She was 25, radiating a vibrant energy that I felt even from across the street. Her long, dark hair fell in soft waves down her back, catching the afternoon sun like a cascade of silk. Her skin had a warm, golden glow that made her seem almost ethereal. But her eyes were what truly captured me. They were large, deep brown pools that seemed to hold entire galaxies of secrets. And her smile, God, that smile. It was gentle, almost innocent, yet carried a hint of profound mystery, as if she understood a truth the rest of us were still searching for. My heart, a muscle I thought long dormant, began to pound in a rhythm I didn't recognize. I'm not a man who gets swept away by a pretty face. I've seen my share. But Katrina was different. There was an aura about her, a quiet strength that drew me in. Against all my instincts, I began to follow her. It wasn't the act of a stalker. It was the pull of a moth to a flame I couldn't resist. I just needed to know more. She moved with an effortless grace, each step light and purposeful. She settled at a small cafe, choosing a table by the window. I took a seat a few tables away, hiding behind a newspaper, though my eyes were only on her. The way she sipped her coffee, the delicate curve of her fingers around the mug, the soft touch of her lips on the porcelain, it was the most sensual thing I had ever witnessed. I found myself imagining the taste of those lips. I wanted desperately to speak to her, but an invisible wall held me back. Perhaps it was the raw fear of rejection. Men like me, men who lived in shadows, weren't the type women fell for. We were the type they ran from. Yet, looking at her, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a decade. Hope. A week went by, and my routine now included watching her from a distance. I started noticing something peculiar. She never spoke. People would approach her, greet her with a smile, and she would respond with a warm nod and that enchanting smile of hers, but never a single word passed her lips. My curiosity grew into a quiet obsession. I had to know her story. Finally, one afternoon, I mustered a courage I didn't know I possessed and walked over to her table. "Hi," I said, my voice coming out rougher and deeper than I intended. She looked up, and those captivating brown eyes met mine. Her lips curved into that familiar, soft smile. Then she gestured with her hands, a fluid, articulate motion. I frowned, completely lost. She tried again, her hands weaving a silent conversation in the air between us. And in that silent, graceful movement, the truth dawned on me. She wasn't ignoring people. She couldn't speak. Katrina was mute. For a long moment, I was frozen. How do you connect with someone who exists in a world of silence? But then I saw the look in her eyes. There was no fear, no judgment of the rough man standing before her. She didn't see the danger everyone else saw. She just smiled, and somehow that smile said everything. I pulled out my phone and quickly typed a message, showing her the screen. "Can I buy you a coffee?" She nodded, her smile widening, and a genuine, unforced smile broke across my own face in return. Her silence wasn't an absence. It was a language of its own, and I suddenly wanted to become fluent. Over the next few weeks, an unlikely friendship blossomed. She became my teacher, patiently guiding my clumsy hands through the basics of sign language. It was a slow process, but my determination was fierce. I wanted to understand every thought, every story her hands wanted to tell. We would spend hours together, sometimes in comfortable silence, other times sharing silent laughter over the smallest things. With every passing day, I felt myself falling deeper for her. One evening, we were sitting on a park bench as the sunset bled colors of orange and pink across the sky. Katrina sat close, her hair smelling of fresh flowers, her skin warm against my arm. Acting on pure instinct, I reached out and gently tucked a stray strand of her hair behind her ear. She looked up at me, her eyes wide, and I feared I had overstepped. But then she leaned closer, her lips parting slightly, just inches from mine. My breath hitched. Then, without a sound, she closed the distance and kissed me. It started soft and tentative, a gentle exploration. Then I kissed her back, my hand moving to cup the back of her head, my fingers tangling in her silky hair as I pulled her closer. Her lips were warm and soft, tasting of the coffee we had shared. The kiss deepened, and in that moment I felt a jolt of connection so profound it shook me to my core. When we finally pulled away, her cheeks were flushed. She smiled that radiant smile and her hands began to move. "What did you say?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She let out a silent laugh and typed on her phone. It said, "I've been wanting to do that for a long time." From that day forward, everything changed. We were no longer just friends. I held her hand as we walked, pulled her close at every opportunity. Her touch was a balm to the storm that had always raged inside me. One night, lying on a blanket under a canopy of stars, I asked her, "What kind of partner do you want in life?" She thought for a moment, then her fingers slowly and deliberately spelled out a single word: loyal. That was all she wanted. Someone who would stand by her, no matter what. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that I would be that man for her. Our love was built in the quiet moments, in shared glances and gentle touches. Katrina taught me that the most powerful love doesn't need words. It was in the way she looked at me, the way her hand fit perfectly in mine, the way we communicated in a language all our own. Our bond was forged in silence, a connection so profound that the thought of my life without her became impossible. Her smile was my sunrise, her presence the only peace my restless soul had ever known. One evening, bathed in the soft glow of the moon, I held her close. A cool breeze whispered around us, carrying her sweet, jasmine-scented perfume. I brushed my lips against the soft skin of her neck, and a shiver ran through her. She turned her face to mine, and as our eyes locked, I knew I was completely and irrevocably hers. She kissed me deeply, her hands resting on my chest, feeling the frantic beat of my heart. Time seemed to stop, the world shrinking until it was only the two of us. I pulled her closer, the warmth of her body a perfect match for mine. It was a kiss that spoke of more than just passion. It was a fusion of two souls. I wanted all of her heart, her mind, her silent world. We would spend nights under the stars, her head on my chest as I traced patterns on her arm. Her hands would dance in the dim light, telling me of her dreams, her fears, her hopes. I had mastered her language, and every gesture felt like a secret whispered only to me. She told me she loved how I made her feel safe, protected from a world that often misunderstood her. And I would kiss her softly and whisper against her lips, "I'll never let you go." But just as our world seemed perfect, life in its cruel way began to tear it apart. It started subtly. Katrina became more distant, a shadow of sadness clouding her beautiful eyes. Her smile was still there, but it no longer reached her eyes. The light within her was dimming, and I felt her slipping away bit by bit. I would ask what was wrong, but she would just shake her head and sign that everything was fine. One night, I planned a surprise. I rented a small cabin by a secluded lake, a place for just the two of us to escape. I imagined us by the fire, lost in our silent world. But when I went to her apartment to pick her up, a sense of dread washed over me. The door was ajar. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pushed it open, calling her name. "Katrina!" Silence. I found her on the floor, curled into a ball, her body racked with silent sobs. I rushed to her, gathering her into my arms. She was trembling uncontrollably. I had never seen her so broken. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice laced with panic. She couldn't answer. Instead, she reached for her phone and typed two words that stopped my heart. "I'm sick, Ethan." My world went numb. The floor seemed to vanish from beneath my feet. "What do you mean?" I whispered, though a cold terror was already creeping into my soul. She pulled away slightly, her hand shaking as she signed a single, devastating word: cancer. The word hung in the air, a single syllable that obliterated my entire world. I wanted to scream, to smash my fist through a wall, to rage at the universe for its cruelty. But all I could do was pull her tighter, burying my face in her hair as she cried silently in my arms. The days that followed blurred into a nightmare of hospitals and treatments. I was by her side for every appointment, every grueling session. The chemotherapy ravaged her body, stealing her strength, her energy, and even her beautiful, silky hair. But to me, she was more beautiful than ever. Every night I would lie beside her, holding her fragile body, whispering promises I prayed I could keep. "You're going to beat this," I'd say, my lips against her forehead. "I'm not going anywhere." But I was breaking inside. Seeing the vibrant woman I loved reduced to this fragility was a special kind of hell. Some nights, I would step outside and just scream into the void, releasing the impotent rage that was eating me alive. I could not lose her, not now. One clear night, as we lay outside looking at the stars, her body weak but her spirit unbroken, she reached for my hand. Her fingers trembled as she signed, "I love you, Ethan. Thank you for staying." Tears welled in my eyes, but I blinked them back. "I love you too, Katrina, more than anything." She offered a small, sad smile, a smile that seemed to know a truth I wasn't ready to face. A few weeks later, she sat me down. Her hands moved with a heavy finality. "I don't want you to fight anymore, Ethan." I stared at her, shaking my head in disbelief. "What are you talking about? We're going to beat this." She shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. "It's not about winning. I just I want to live. For whatever time I have left, I want to live without the pain, without the hospitals. I just want to be with you. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I wanted to argue, to tell her not to give up. But looking into her eyes, I saw it wasn't surrender. It was the ultimate act of courage, choosing to live on her own terms. And so we lived. We filled our final days with moments, not plans. We savored every kiss, every touch. One evening, as the sun dipped below the lake, Katrina kissed me, her hands resting over my heart. I held her close, feeling her faint heartbeat against mine. And for the first time in months, I wasn't angry. I realized love isn't about the promise of forever. It's about the intensity of the now, the memories you forge in the time you're given. And as I held her in my arms, I knew that no matter what came next, I would carry her with me always. The days grew shorter, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Katrina's illness was a constant shadow, but it wasn't the sickness that was breaking me. It was the relentless march of time that I was powerless to stop. One last evening by the lake, she lay in my arms, the cool, pine-scented air wrapping around us. The stars were a brilliant tapestry overhead, reflected in her tired brown eyes. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, a faint, fluttering rhythm, like the last dance of a candle flame. I kissed her forehead, lingering, trying to will my strength into her. She looked up at me, a profound peace in her gaze that I couldn't comprehend. Her hand rose, her fingers moving slowly, with deliberate grace. "Ethan, don't cry for me when I'm gone. You've already given me a lifetime of happiness." The dam I had built inside me broke. Tears streamed down my face. "I can't," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I don't know how to live without you." The thought of a world without her in it was a desolate, empty void. She smiled softly, her delicate fingers brushing away my tears. "You'll live," she signed, her hand shaking with the effort. "You'll find love again." I shook my head fiercely. "No, you're the only one. You're it for me, Katrina." She pressed her fingers to my lips, silencing me. Then she signed the words that shattered what was left of my heart. "I want you to remember me, but I don't want to be your last love. I want you to be happy." I finally let go, sobbing into her shoulder, clutching her as if I could prevent her from slipping away. And even then, in her final moments, she was the one comforting me, her hand stroking my hair. We stayed like that for hours as the night grew cold, our bodies intertwined, her breathing growing slower, shallower. "Do you remember the first time I saw you?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "At the coffee shop. I thought you were the most beautiful woman I had ever seen." A faint smile touched her lips. "And you were the mysterious man who never smiled," she signed, her fingers barely moving. "I thought you were dangerous." "I was dangerous," I admitted, kissing her cheek. "But you saved me, Katrina. You gave me a reason to be better." Her smile faded. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine, memorizing my face. Then she made one final request. "Promise me you'll smile when you think of me. Promise me you won't let the sadness win." "I promise," I choked out, a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. The end came on a sunny afternoon. She was lying in bed, frail but serene. I sat beside her, holding her hand, my thumb stroking her soft skin. She looked at me, her eyes clear and full of a love that transcended pain. Her hand moved one last time. I love you, Ethan. Don't forget that. I love you too, Katrina, I whispered, my voice breaking. I'll never forget. And with one last, gentle breath, she was gone. The silence she left behind was deafening, absolute. The world stopped. I sat there for hours, holding her hand, unable to accept that the vibrant soul who had remade my world was no longer in it. The grief that followed was a tidal wave. I would wake in the night reaching for her, the emptiness beside me a fresh wound every morning. Everything reminded me of her. A sunset, the scent of jasmine, the quiet fall of rain. But through the haze of pain, I held onto her last wish. Don't let the sadness win. So, piece by piece, I began to live again. I would visit our park bench, our cafe, and feel her presence beside me. I would think of her smile, her silent laughter, the way her eyes lit up. And slowly, just as she had asked, the tears began to be replaced by smiles. I never forgot her. I could never forget the woman who taught me the language of love. She was not my last love, but she was the love that taught me how to live.